Hey everybody, we're going to be reading pages 211 through 227. So when we talk about plot, exposition was the very beginning of the story. We found out about Augie's face, told backstories about him being a baby and his surgeries. We knew where it took place. It took place in New York. We knew that the main character was Augie, and he introduced all of the other main characters to us. Rising action was around Jack Will. Okay, whenever Jack Will said something mean to him at Halloween, and then slowly they've started to become friends again, and there's a war going on at school. But today we enter the climax. Okay, this is the part where there's the biggest problem in the story, the saddest part in the story. Okay, so just be prepared. Today is kind of sad, and today is the climax. So are you ready to be on the edge of your seat to figure out what's going on? I know I am. Let's get started. Page 211, you should see Lobot. Ever since I was little, the doctors told my parents that someday I'd need hearing aids. I don't know why this always freaked me out a bit. Maybe because anything to do with my ears bothers me a lot. My hearing was getting worse, but I hadn't told anyone about it. The ocean sound that was always in my head had been getting louder. It was drowning out people's voices, like I was underwater. I couldn't hear teachers if I sat in the back of the class, but I knew if I told Mom and Dad about it, I'd end up with hearing aids. And I was hoping I could make it through 5th grade without having that happen. But then in my annual checkup in October, I flunked the audiology test, and the doctor was like, "Dude, it's time." And he sent me to a special ear doctor who took impressions of my ears. Out of all my features, my ears are the ones I hate the most. They're like tiny closed fists on the sides of my face. They're too low on my head, too. They look like squashed pieces of pizza dough sticking out on the top of my neck or something. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I really do hate them. When the ear doctor first pulled the hearing aids out for me and Mom to look at, I groaned. "I'm not wearing that thing," I announced, folding my arms in front of me. "I know they probably look kind of big," said the ear doctor, "but we had to attach them to the headband because we had no other way of making them so they'd stay in your ears." See, normal hearing aids usually have a part that wraps around the outer ear to hold the inner bud in place. But in my case, since I don't have outer ears, they had to put the headbuds on this heavy-duty headband that was supposed to wrap around the back of my head. "I can't wear that, Mom," I whined. "You'll hardly notice them," said Mom, trying to be cheerful. "They look like headphones." "Headphones? Look at them, Mom," I said angrily. "I'll look like a Lobot." "Which one is the Lobot?" said Mom calmly. "Lobot?" The ear doctor smiled as he looked at the headphones and made some adjustments. "The Emperor Strikes Back? The bald guy with the cool bionic radio transmitter thing that wraps around the back of his skull?" "I'm drawing a blank," said Mom. "You know Star Wars stuff?" I asked the ear doctor. "No Star Wars stuff?" he answered, slipping the thing over my head. "I practically invented Star Wars stuff." He leaned back in his chair to see how the headband fit and then took it off again. "Now, Augie, I want to explain what all this is," he said, pointing to the different parts of one of the hearing aids. "This curved piece of plastic over here connects to the tubing on the ear mold. That's why we took those impressions back in December, so that this part that goes inside your ear fits nice and snug. This part here is called the tone hook, okay? And this thing is the special part we've attached to this cradle here." "The Lobot part," I said miserably. "Hey, Lobot is cool," said the ear doctor. "It's not like we're saying you're going to look like Jar Jar, you know? That would be bad." He slid the earphones on my head again carefully. "There you go, August. So how's that?" "Totally uncomfortable?" I said. "You'll get used to them very quickly," he said. I looked in the mirror. My eyes started tearing up. All I saw were those tubes jutting out from either side of my head like antennas. "Do I really have to wear this, Mom?" I said, trying not to cry. "I hate them. They don't make any difference." "Give it a second, buddy," said the doctor. "I haven't even turned them on yet. Wait until you hear the difference. You'll want to wear them." "No, I won't." And then he turned them on. Hearing brightly. How can I describe what I heard when the doctor turned on my hearing aids? Or what I didn't hear? It's too hard to think of words. The ocean just wasn't living inside of my head anymore. It was gone. I could hear sounds like shiny lights in my brain. It was like when you're in a room where one of the light bulbs on the ceiling isn't working, but you don't realize how dark it is until someone changes the light bulb, and then you're like, whoa, it's so bright in here. I don't know if there's a word that means the same as bright in terms of hearing, but I wish I knew one because my ears were hearing brightly now. How does it sound, doggy? Said the ear doctor. Can you hear me okay, buddy? I looked at him and smiled, but I didn't answer. Sweetie, do you hear anything differently? Do you hear anything different? Said Mom. You don't have to shout, Mom. I nodded happily. Are you hearing better? Asked the ear doctor. I don't hear that noise anymore, I answered. It's so quiet in my ears. The white noise is gone, he said, nodding. He looked at me and winked. I told you you'd like what you hear, August. He made some adjustments on the left hearing aid. Does it sound very different, love? Mom asked. Yeah, I nodded. It sounds lighter. That's because you have bionic hearing now, buddy, said the ear doctor, adjusting the right side. Now touch here. He put my hand behind the hearing aid. Do you feel that? That's the volume. You have to find the volume that works for you. We're going to do that next. Well, what do you think? He picked up a small mirror and had me look in the big mirror and how the hearing aid looks in the back. My hair covered most of the headband. The only part that peeked out was the tubing. Are you okay with your new bionic Lobot hearing aids? The ear doctor asked, looking in the mirror at me. Yeah, I said. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. James, said Mom. The first day I showed up at school with the hearing aids, I thought kids would make a big deal about it, but no one did. Summer was glad I could hear better, and Jack said it made me look like an FBI agent or something. But that was it. Mr. Brown asked me about an English class, but it wasn't like, what the heck is that thing on your head? It was more like, if you ever need me to repeat something, Augie, make sure you tell me, okay? Now that I look back, I don't know why I was so stressed about it all this time. Funny how sometimes you worry a lot about something and it turns out to be nothing. Page 216, Via's Secret. A couple of days after spring break ended, Mom found out that Via hadn't told her about a school play that was happening at her high school the next week, and Mom was mad. Mom doesn't really get mad that much, though Dad would disagree with that, but she was really mad at Via for that. She and Via got into this huge fight. I could hear them yelling at each other in Via's room. My bionic Lobot ears could hear Mom saying, But what is with you lately, Via? You're moody and taciturn and secretive. What is so wrong with my not telling you about a stupid play? Via practically screamed. I don't even have a speaking part in it. Your boyfriend does. Don't you want us to see him in it? No, actually, I don't. Stop screaming. You screamed first. Just leave me alone, okay? You've been really good about leaving me alone my whole life, so why you choose high school to suddenly be interested, I have no idea. Then I don't know what Mom answered because it all got very quiet, and even my bionic Lobot ears couldn't pick up on a signal. My cave. By dinner, they seemed to have made up. Dad was working late, Daisy was sleeping. She had thrown up a lot earlier in the day, and Mom made an appointment to take her to the vet the next morning. The three of us were sitting down and no one was talking. Finally, I said, So, are you going to see Justin in a play? Via didn't answer, but looked down at her plate. You know, Augie, said Mom quietly, I hadn't realized what play it was, and it really isn't something that would be interesting to kids your age. So I'm not invited? I said, looking at Via. I didn't say that, said Mom. It's just I don't think it's something you'd enjoy. You get totally bored, said Via, like she was accusing me of something. Are you and Dad going? I asked. Dad'll go, said Mom. I'll stay home with you. What? Via yelled at Mom. Oh, great, so you're going to punish me for being honest by not going. You don't want us to go in the first place, remember? Answered Mom. But now that you know about it, of course I want you to go, said Via. Well, I've got to weigh everyone's feelings here, Via, said Mom. What are you two talking about? I shouted. Nothing, they both snapped at the same time. Just something about Via's school that has nothing to do with you, said Mom. You're lying, I said. Excuse me, said Mom, kind of shocked. Even Via looked surprised. I said, you're lying, I shouted. You're lying. I screamed at Via, getting up. You're both liars. You're both lying to my face like I'm an idiot. Sit down, Augie, said Mom, grabbing my arm. I pulled my arm away and pointed at Via. You think I don't know what's going on? I yelled. You just don't want your brand new fancy high school friends to know your brother's a freak. Augie, Mom yelled, that's not true. Stop lying to me, Mom, I shrieked. Stop treating me like a baby. I'm not retarded. I know what's going on. I ran down the hallway to my room and slammed the door behind me so hard that I actually heard little pieces of the wall crumbling inside the doorframe. Then I plopped onto my bed and pulled the covers up on top of me. I threw my pillows over my disgusting face and then piled all my stuffed animals on top of the pillows like I was inside a little cave. If I could walk around with a pillow over my face all the time, I would. I don't even know how to get so mad. I wasn't really mad at the beginning of dinner. I wasn't even sad. But then all of a sudden, it all kind of just exploded out at me. I knew Via didn't want me to go to her stupid play, and I knew why. I figured Mom would follow me into my room right away, but she didn't. I wanted her to find me inside my cave of stuffed animals, so I waited a little more, but even after 10 minutes, she still didn't come in after me. I was pretty surprised. She always checks on me when I'm in my room, upset and stuff. I pictured Mom and Via talking about me in the kitchen. I figured Via was feeling really, really, really bad. I pictured Mom totally laying on the guilt, and Dad would be mad at her when he came home too. I made a little hole through the pile of pillows and stuffed animals and peeked at the clock on my wall. Half an hour had passed, and Mom still hadn't come into my room. I tried to listen for the sounds in the other room. Were they still having dinner? What's going on? Finally, the door opened. It was Via. She didn't even bother coming over to my bed, and she didn't come in softly like I thought she would. She came in quickly. Goodbye. Augie, said Via, come quick. Mom needs to talk to you. I'm not apologizing. This isn't about you, she yelled. Not everything in the world is about you, Augie. Now hurry up. Daisy's sick. Mom's taking her to the emergency vet. Come say goodbye. I pushed the pillows off my face and looked at her. That's when I saw she was crying. What do you mean, goodbye? Come on, she said, holding out her hand. I took her hand and followed her down the hall to the kitchen. Daisy was lying down sideways on the floor with her legs straight out in front of her. She was panting a lot, like she had been running in the park. Mom was kneeling beside her, stroking the top of her head. What happened? I asked. She just started whimpering all of a sudden, said Via, kneeling down next to Mom. I looked down at Mom, who was crying too. I'm taking her to the animal hospital downtown, she said. The taxi's coming to pick me up. The vet'll make her better, right? I said. Mom looked at me. I hope so, honey, she said quietly, but I honestly don't know. Of course he will, I said. Daisy's been sick a lot lately, Augie, and she's old. But they'll fix her. But they can fix her, I said, looking at Via to agree with me. But Via wouldn't look at me, up at me. Mom's lips were trembling. I think it might be time we say goodbye to Daisy, Augie. I'm sorry. No, I said. We don't want her to suffer, Augie, she said. The phone rang. Via picked it up and said, okay, thanks, and then hung up. The taxi's outside, she said, wiping her tears with the back of her hands. Okay, Augie, open the door for me, sweetie, said Mom, picking Daisy up very gently like she was a huge, droopy baby. Please, no, Mommy, I cried, putting myself in front of the door. Honey, please, said Mom. She's very heavy. What about Daddy? I cried. He's meeting me at the hospital, Mom said. He doesn't want Daisy to suffer, Augie. Via moved me away from the door and held it open for Mom. My cell phone's on if you need anything, Mom said to Via. Can you cover her with the blanket? Via nodded. She was crying hysterically now. Say goodbye to Daisy, kids, Mom said, tears streaming down her face. I love you, Daisy, Via said, kissing Daisy on the nose. I love you so much. Bye, little girl, I whispered into Daisy's ear. I love you. Mom carried Daisy down the stoop. The taxi driver had opened the back door and we watched her get in. Just before she closed the door, Mom looked up at us standing by the entrance to the building. She gave us a little wave. I don't think I've ever seen her look sadder. 2:20. Goodbye. Augie, said Via, come quick. Oh, wait. Sorry. Wrong page. 2:22. I love you, Mommy, said Via. I love you, Mommy, I said. I'm sorry, Mommy. Mom blew a kiss to us and closed the door. We watched the car leave and then Via closed the door. She looked at me a second, and then she hugged me very, very tight while we both cried a million tears. 2:23. Justin came over about a half an hour later. He gave me a big hug and said, "Sorry, Augie." We all sat down in the living room, not saying anything. For some reason, Bea and I had taken all of Daisy's toys from around the house and had put them in a little pile on the coffee table. Now we just stared at the pile. "She really is the greatest dog in the world," said Bea. "I know," said Justin, rubbing Bea's back. "She just started whimpering, like all of a sudden," I said. Bea nodded. "Like 2 seconds after you left the table," she said. "Mom was going to go after you, but Daisy just started, like, whimpering." "Like how?" I said. "Just whimpering. I don't know," said Bea. "Like howling?" I asked. "Augie, like whimpering," she answered impatiently. "She just started moaning like something was really hurting her, and she was panting like crazy. Then she just kind of plopped down, and Mom went over and tried to pick her up and whatever, and she was obviously hurting. She bit Mom." "What?" I said. "When Mom tried to touch her stomach, Daisy bit her hand," Bea explained. "Daisy never bites anyone," I answered. "She wasn't herself," said Justin. "She was obviously in pain." "Daddy was right," said Bea. "We shouldn't have let her get this bad." "What do you mean?" I said. "He knew she was sick?" "Augie, Mom's taken her to the vet like 3 times in the last 2 months. She's been throwing up left and right. Haven't you noticed?" "But I didn't know she was sick." Bea didn't say anything. She just put her arm around my shoulder and pulled me closer to her. I started to cry again. "I'm sorry, Augie," she said softly. "I'm really sorry about everything, okay? You forgive me? You know how much I love you, right?" I nodded. Somehow this fight didn't matter much now. "Was Mommy bleeding?" I asked. "It was just a nip," said Bea, "right there." She pointed to the bottom of her thumb to show me exactly where Daisy had bitten Mom. "Did it hurt her?" "Mommy's okay, Augie. She's fine." Mom and Dad came home 2 hours later. We knew that the second they opened the door and Daisy wasn't with them, that Daisy was gone. We all sat down in the living room. Sorry. I cry every year. Okay, I can do this. We all sat down in the living room around the pile of Daisy's toys. Dad told us what happened at the animal hospital, how the vet took Daisy for some x-rays and blood tests, then came back and told them she had a huge mass in her stomach. She was having trouble bleeding. Mom and Dad didn't want her to suffer, so Daddy picked her up in his arms like he always liked to, with her legs straight up in the air. And he and Mom kissed her goodbye over and over again and whispered to her while the vet put a needle in her leg. And then, after about a minute, she died in Daddy's arms. It was so peaceful, Dad said. She wasn't in any pain at all, like she was just going to sleep. A couple of times while he talked, Dad's voice got trembly and he cleared his throat. I've never seen Dad cry before, but I saw him cry tonight. I had gone into Mom and Dad's bedroom looking for Mom to put me to bed, but saw Dad sitting on the edge of the bed taking off his socks. His back was to the door, so he didn't know I was there. At first I thought he was laughing because his shoulders were shaking, but then he put his palms in his hands and I realized he was crying. It was the quietest cry I'd ever heard, like a whisper. I was going to go over to him, but then I thought maybe he was whisper crying because he didn't want me or anyone else to hear him. So I walked out and went to Via's room, and I saw Mom lying next to Via on the bed, and Mom was whispering to Via, who was crying. So I went to my bed and put on my pajamas without anyone telling me to, and I put the nightlight on and turned the lights off and crawled into the little mountain of stuffed animals I had left on my bed earlier. It felt like that had all happened a million years ago. I took my hearing aids off and put them on the night table and pulled the covers up to my ears and imagined Daisy snuggling with me, her big wet tongue licking my face all over like it was her favorite face in the world. And that's how I fell asleep. Heaven. I woke up later on and it was still dark. I got out of bed and I walked into Mom and Dad's bedroom. "Mommy," I whispered. It was completely dark, so I couldn't see her open her eyes. "Mommy?" "You okay, honey?" she said groggily. "Can I sleep with you?" Mommy scooted over towards Dad's side of the bed, and I snuggled up next to her. She kissed my hair. "Is your hand okay?" I said. "Via told me Daisy bit you." "It was only a nip," she whispered in my ear. "Mommy," I started crying. "I'm sorry about what I said." Shh, there's nothing for you to be sorry about, she said, so quietly I could barely hear her. She was rubbing the side of her face against my face. Is Via ashamed of me? I said. No, honey, no. You know she's not. She's just adjusting to a new school. It's not easy. I know. I know you know. I'm sorry I called you a liar. Go to sleep, sweet boy. I love you so much. I love you so much, too, Mommy. Good night, honey, she said very softly. Mommy, is Daisy with Grands now? I think so. Are they in heaven? Yes. Do people look the same when they go to heaven? I don't know. I don't think so. Then how do people recognize each other? I don't know, sweetie. She sounded tired. They just feel it. You don't need your eyes to love, right? You just feel it inside of you. That that's how it is in heaven. It's just love, and no one forgets who they love. She kissed me again. Now go to sleep, honey. It's late, and I'm so tired. But I couldn't go to sleep, even after I knew she had fallen asleep. I could hear Dad sleeping too, and I imagined I could hear Via sleeping down the hallway in her room, and I wondered if Daisy was sleeping in heaven right then. And if she was sleeping, was she dreaming about me? And I wondered how it would feel to be in heaven someday, and not have my face matter anymore, just like it never ever mattered to Daisy.